The United States has somewhere between 11 and 14 million undocumented immigrants. That is more people than the entire population of Portugal, more than Greece, more than Belgium. No other wealthy nation on earth comes close, and the reason is not what most people think. It is not an open border. It is not a lack of enforcement. It is not that millions of people decided to break the law because they felt like it. The real reason is a machine. It is a legal immigration system that has not been meaningfully updated since 1990. The system is so broken, so backlogged, and so disconnected from the economy it is supposed to serve that it practically manufactures illegal immigration by design. Here is what almost nobody tells you. The last major overhaul of the American immigration system happened in November of 1990. President George H.W. Bush signed the Immigration Act into law. It set the annual cap for employment-based green cards at 140,000. It capped family-sponsored green cards at 480,000, and it created the diversity visa lottery. Those numbers were calculated for a 1990s economy. 36 years later, they have not changed. Not once. The U.S. population has grown by almost 90 million people since then. The GDP has more than tripled. The labor market has transformed beyond recognition. But the number of green cards issued every year is frozen at a level designed for a country that no longer exists. That is the first crack in the system. But the second one is worse. The United States caps green cards at 7% per country. That means India, a country of 1.4 billion people, gets the same number of employment-based green cards each year as Iceland, a country of 370,000. The result is a backlog so extreme it defies logic. Mexican nationals applying for certain family preference visas filed their paperwork more than 22 years ago and are just now receiving their green cards. Indian professionals in the EB2 category face projected wait times of up to 50 years. Some applicants will die before their number is called. More than 4 million people sit on the State Department's immigrant visa waiting list. Over 1.2 million approved employment petitions are in a holding pattern. These are not people trying to cheat the system. They already qualified. They already passed the background checks. They already had a sponsor. The system told them yes, then told them to wait a generation. Now put yourself in the shoes of someone in Guatemala or Honduras. You earn $6 or $7 a day. There is a job in Tennessee paying $15 an hour. You know someone who made the crossing. You know someone who found work within a week. The legal path requires a family sponsor, a decade-long wait, and a bureaucracy that loses paperwork. The illegal path requires a few $1,000s and a few days of risk. The math is not complicated. It is arithmetic. And this is the part that breaks the entire debate wide open. 42% of all undocumented immigrants in the United States did not cross a border illegally. They entered with a valid visa. They came through airports. They showed their passports. They went through customs. And then they stayed past their authorized date. In fiscal year 2023 alone, more than 510,000 people overstayed their visas. The overall overstay rate sits between 1% and 2% of all admissions, which sounds small until you multiply it by roughly 45 million annual entries. So when politicians talk about walls and border security, they are addressing at best 58% of the problem. The other 42% walk through the front door with government permission. No wall stops a tourist with a return ticket who simply decides not to board the plane. The overstay numbers come from every corner of the globe. Haiti had an overstay rate of 31%. Egypt sat at 4%. India sent 19,000 overstayers in a single fiscal year. Mexico, the country most associated with illegal immigration, had 1.8 million visa approvals in 2023 alone. The sheer volume of legal entries means even a tiny overstay percentage generates hundreds of thousands of new undocumented residents every year. Why do they stay? Because the system gives them no path forward. Consider this. If an undocumented immigrant who entered without inspection marries a U.S. citizen, they cannot simply apply for a green card from inside the country. Immigration law requires them to leave the United States first. But the moment they leave, a separate provision from the 1996 Illegal Immigration Reform Act bars them from returning for 3 to 10 years because they were previously undocumented. So the law punishes people for trying to do the right thing. It creates a trap with no exit. And millions of people are caught in it right now. As of 2016, roughly 2/3 of undocumented adults had lived in the U.S. for at least a decade. These are not transient border crossers. They are neighbors, co-workers, parents of American-born children. About 3.4 million undocumented immigrants live with at least one U.S. citizen child under 18. Meanwhile, the American economy needs these workers, and everyone knows it. Undocumented immigrants make up 5% of the U.S. workforce. That is 8.1 million people. They represent 50% of all hired field and crop workers. 25% of the construction workforce is immigrant labor, both documented and undocumented. The service industry, meatpacking plants, landscaping companies, restaurants, entire sectors would collapse overnight without them. They pay $16 billion a year into Social Security. They will never collect a dime of it. They pay billions more in state and local taxes. A study from the Congressional Budget Office projected that increased immigration over recent years would boost nominal GDP by $8.9 trillion over the next decade and lower the federal deficit by nearly $1 trillion. Removing them would not create 8.1 million jobs for Americans. It would shrink the consumer base, shut down farms, stall construction projects, and trigger a recession. The economic modelers have run the numbers. Mass deportation would reduce U.S. GDP by 2.6%, roughly $4.7 trillion. But if the economics are so clear, why does the system stay broken? Because immigration reform is politically radioactive. The last serious attempt was in 2013. A bipartisan group of 8 senators drafted a bill that would have created a path to legal status for 11 million undocumented immigrants, expanded visa programs, added 200,000 low-skilled worker visas, and mandated E-Verify for all employers. The Senate passed it 68-32. The House never voted on it. Grassroots opposition killed it. Every few years, the cycle repeats. A crisis builds, a bill is drafted, the bill dies, the backlog grows, the undocumented population grows, and the politicians who let it happen use the growing number as proof that the other side failed. Now, look at what happened after 2020. The U.S. economy recovered from the pandemic faster than almost any other major economy. Job openings exploded. At the same time, Venezuela collapsed. Nicaragua tightened its political repression. Gangs surged in Haiti. Ecuador destabilized. Cuba's economy imploded. Millions of people were displaced across the Western Hemisphere at the exact moment the American labor market was screaming for workers. Border Patrol encounters hit 2.2 million in fiscal year 2022 and 2 million in 2023. But here is what the raw numbers hide. The undocumented population did not grow by 2 million per year. For every 5 border apprehensions historically, the resident population grew by only 1. Many are caught and returned. Many are seasonal workers. Many are repeat crossers. Many are legitimate asylum seekers. The Cato Institute found that the flow of illegal immigration tracks almost perfectly with U.S. job openings. When jobs go up, crossings go up. When jobs disappear, like during the pandemic, crossings collapse. It is not an invasion. It is a labor market signal that the legal system refuses to process. The United States issues roughly 1 million green cards per year. Canada, with 1/9 the population, issues over 400,000 permanent residencies annually. Australia, with 1/13 the population, grants around 190,000. Per capita, the United States legal immigration rate is far lower than both. The demand for entry into the American economy is enormous. The supply of legal pathways is artificially tiny. The gap between demand and supply is filled by undocumented immigration. It has been this way for decades. And yet the debate almost never focuses on expanding legal pathways. It focuses on enforcement, more agents, more wall, more detention beds, more deportation flights. The United States spends more on immigration enforcement than on the FBI, the DEA, the Secret Service, and the ATF combined. It has tripled the size of Border Patrol since the 1990s. and the undocumented population has gone from 3.5 million in 1990 to around 14 million today. Enforcement without legal reform is a pressure cooker with no valve. The countries with the smallest undocumented populations are not the ones with the tallest walls. They are the ones with the most functional legal systems. Countries that offer realistic work visas, seasonal migration programs, and accessible permanent residency do not generate massive populations of people living in the shadows. The system does not need more force. It needs a redesign. The last time Congress redesigned it was 36 years ago. The economy has tripled. The workforce has transformed. The hemisphere has destabilized. And America is still issuing the same number of green cards it calculated for a world that vanished before most of the people reading this were born. The United States does not have 11 to 14 million undocumented immigrants because it cannot control its borders. It has them because it built a legal immigration system in 1990 and never updated it. The backlog is the blueprint. The wait times are the wall. And every year Congress refuses to act. The number grows, not because people are lawless, but because the law gave them nowhere to go.